Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Isn't it cold out, eh? Isn't it cold out? I do need to very quickly take my name off the screen because I think we all know that. We do have a few issues this morning. If you're watching over on Instagram, feel free to comment, but I can't see it. The comments aren't coming through. And I've got kind of the reverse problem here on this side. Oh, no, actually, it's just sprung back into life. I was seeing comments, but I couldn't post comments, but they've just sprung back into life, which is good news. Who have we got here? Gary Muirhead was here even before the show started. Morning, Gary. Thank you very much indeed for being here. I bet it's cold in your part of the world. Gary's up in the wilds of Scotland. Dan Cullen. Morning, chaps. Says, was a lovely -4 here. The only person in the world that thinks that -4 is a good thing. Madman. Who else do we have here? I did see Mark Whiting go through the chat at some point. I'm sure I did. There we are. Morning, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Dan Cullen is on his way home. Wow, that's a nice early finish to the week. Also, we made it through. We made it through the first proper working week of 2025. So well done, everyone. Well done. We made it through. It was touch and go for a little while, but we made it through. Absolute ton of stuff to get through today. So I'm not going to mess about with the preamble. Without further ado, I'm going to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. And I will remember to post the question of the day today. Yeah, so that's the wrong button. That's the one we want. Yeah, I will tell you what's coming up, but stand by your beds, people, because we have a returning guest, the Queen of Plant Works. Morning, Lou. Lou Carney says, my first show of 2025. Hello, you beautiful people. Quite clearly, she's talking about you lot rather than me, but good of you to join us, Lou. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead says, it's -6 now, but it was -10 at 5 a.m. when I was out with the dog. Ooh, -10. I bet the dog wanted no part of that whatsoever. Mark, confused? A Friday? Yeah, listen, I'm confused most days of the week. We may even be forced to transition into a new system because the system that I won't bore you, but I use a system called StreamYard to broadcast this show. StreamYard was taken over about 3 months ago, and I've got to be honest, ever since it's been real hit and miss, and some of it is me, don't get me wrong. I mean, some of it is me. I am an idiot and I do press the wrong buttons on a regular basis, but a lot of it is down to exactly what's going on over at StreamYard. I hope they pull their finger out. Gary Muirhead says, good morning, Lou, looking forward to Plantworks. Are you going to Plantworks, Gary? Are you going to Plantworks? I'm still planning to come to Scotland. Don't let that affect that, but if you're going to Plantworks, love to see you there. Yes, I do need to tell you about what's in the show today, don't I? It is Friday, the 10th of January, 2025. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, we're up close with the latest Develon wheel loaders. Mining autonomy down under. We're going underground with Caterpillar, and Volvo's new excavators get all cinematic. It's a very quick film, but it's a very good one. Plus, in my morning monologue today, we're going to be revisiting the new versus old machine debate, taking a bit of a fresh perspective on that. But before we get to all of that, we do have the small matter of today's mystery machine to contend with. Just pressing some buttons in the background here because Chris Ford, Ken Hatcher, and our mate Mick has just joined us as well. Let's have a look. What do we got here? Ken Hatcher's good morning, and it looks like he's got it cold where he is. Dan Cullen, has anyone noticed how quickly this week went by? Yeah, I barely came up for air, and it was over and done with. But yeah, it's the weekend fairly soon, so not too bad at all. Long way to continue. Somebody offering their services as a video editor? No, thank you. Dan Cullen says, Happy New Year and good morning to the wonderful Lou Carney. Can't wait for Plantworks. Have the hotel booked already. See, planning ahead. Our friend Footy is here as well. Good morning. How's it going on this cold and wonderful day? Well, cold, but fairly wonderful. Question of the day. Okay, so question of the day. I'll remind you of that in a second. Let me just do this bit first. Jim Turner, morning, lost track of time. Having the crack with the fitter. Not a problem at all, Jim. Let me very quickly press your button. And apparently, Lou Carney has spotted Dan Cullen's hat. Nice hat, Dan Cullen. What part of a collection? Part of a wide collection. Yes, Mystery Machine. We need to press a bit of one of these. Yeah, I gave you a tough one yesterday, which, I mean, ultimately, Gary Muirhead got it, but I did feel slightly guilty about it because I was dredging up machines from the past. And so, therefore, we've dredged up a machine from the present. So here we go. That is the machine that I would like you to identify. I would like a make and a model, if you would be so kind. See what you can come up with on that. Look forward to seeing what you offer. What do we got here? Where is Plantworks this year? Lou, I'll leave you to answer that. It's kind of up Jim Turner's part of the world, but I'll leave Lou to nail down exactly where it is and the dates and everything else, because she probably has all of that at her fingertips. So there's your mystery machine. While you're figuring that out, we do need to remind you of the question of the day. We already had one answer, but let me fire this up. Yeah, our question of the day today, I don't even know where this one came from. Simple but potentially divisive. And it is this. Do you believe in UFOs? Now, personally, on the one hand, I can't believe we're alone in the cosmos, but I'm not convinced that little green men are coming here on a works outing. So where do you stand on all of that? What do you reckon? Are we visited from time to time? Chris Ford says, yes, I've dodged many a low-flying spanner. It's a big universe out there. Yeah. It is a big universe. I just, knowing what we all know about the human species and what we've done to the planet, would you come here on your holidays? You personally, you've got infinite space and infinite time, and you have the means to travel the cosmos. Would you come here? It's a bit like saying, here, endless money. Here is the globe. You can go anywhere on holiday. Where would you like to go? Oh, Skegness for me, please. Can't see that as being a thing, but well, you never know. Mick says, question of the day. I believe Millwall will win the cup and be top of the Premier League, so might as well believe in Little Green Men. I think the Little Green Men are possibly more likely than that, but hey. What do we got? Luke Carney's, yes, Plantworks. There you are, Newark Showground, 23rd to the 25th of September. Not exactly on your doorstep if you happen to reside in Wales, but well worth the trip, I would say. Dan Cullen reckons our mystery machine could well be a JCB 457. It's not, but not far off. Not far off. Mick Norton is here. Good morning, Mick. Good morning, all, and a belated Happy New Year. Good morning to you, Mick. Hope Mrs. Norton is doing well. Dan Cullen, no, don't believe in them, but believe we have other life forms out there. I've met some of those other life forms, and I want no further part of it. Gary Muirhead reckons our mystery machine could be a BOMAG BW213D-5. It's not. Let me show you a bit more. There you are. That appears to be a bucket on the front there. I often had UFO thrown at me. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I think I would rather come to the UK, and I wouldn't go to LA at the moment. All those wildfires, yeah, it looks awful over there. Awful business over there. And particularly, I mean, it's never good to see anywhere on fire, but that part of the world is really quite pleasant on a good day. So, yeah, very, very sad indeed. Dan, I married 3 of them. I'm not going to go there. Question of the day. Yes, totally. There's so much on our planet that seems like we must have had outside help to accomplish that there has to be other life out there. Oh, my Lord. We have that conversation in this house a lot with my eldest son, who is pretty convinced that the pyramids are the result of some little green men pitching up with some IKEA furniture or something very similar. Mystery Machine, we seem to have a consensus on all things JCB, which is not a bad idea. Chris Ford reckons it could be a JCB 436. Dan reckons it could be a 419. Gary Muirhead reckons a 457. Dan Cullen changes his mind, 436. Gary Muirhead, 409. You've managed to hit both posts without scoring a goal, all of you guys. You need to think between the lines. There's a little bit more to be going on with. Let me take that away, and I'll come back to that in just a moment, probably when somebody's won it. But it is time for the news for the day, which looks like this. A building stone products manufacturer and its director have been fined £19,000 after repeatedly failing to protect workers from exposure to respirable crystalline silica. The HSE carried out several inspections at Walmsworth Stone, which produces carved stone masonry products using limestone, sandstone, granite and marble at the company's site in South Yorkshire starting in May 2023. Following these visits, the company was served with 7 improvement notices, which covered several failures, including exposure to stone dust, control of Legionella bacteria, and inadequate welfare facilities. Jersey Construction Council said it was deeply saddened after another construction company ceased trading. Kayland Construction announced it was going into at the end of December, and it did so apologising for any distress that this news might cause. 3 building companies have ceased trading in July 2024, and Mitchell Building Contractors closed in October, citing spiralling costs as a factor. Bad news for Jersey. Yes, bad news for Jersey. I mean, obviously, 2 or 3 companies going bust in the grand scheme of things doesn't. When you look at it from a UK perspective, doesn't feel like a big deal. On Jersey, where there's probably only a couple of dozen construction companies, 3 or 4 going down. Very, very bad news. Going back to the Mystery Machine, which looks like this. We've got Gary with the 436. We've got Mark Whiting with the 419. Chris Ford with the 403. Gary Muirhead with the 419. Dan Cullen with the 455-4. And Gary Muirhead with the 435S Agri. It's in the middle of all of those. I'll show you a little bit more. There you are. That doesn't help at all, but there's a little bit more there. And our friend Footy reckons... Chris Ford, you're right. I'll come back. We cannot be the only people in the universe. It's so vast. There's got to be other people out there. But again, would you come here? Would you come here? What are they looking to attain by coming here? Possibly going back and reporting to their grand lords and masters in another part of the galaxy to say, don't let's go there and don't let's be like them. I think that's probably all they're learning from here. So I said, Chris Ford has got the right answer. It's a real mixed bag, actually. I'm just looking at the league table here. So Chris Ford has correctly identified our machine as a JCB 427. You're absolutely right, Chris. And just to prove it, there it is in all its glory, JCB 427. Congratulations. We now have Gary Muirhead on 6 points, me on 3 points, Steve Williamson on 3 points, and as of this morning, Chris Ford also on 3 points. Yeah, it's going to be a tight one this month. Let's see. And our reigning champion yet to get a point on the board, Mr. Cullen. What are you playing at, Mr. Cullen? Pull your finger out, sir. Too busy concentrating on his hat collection, I fear. Right, time for the show to begin. A quarter of an hour in. Here we go.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, those fine folks at Develon have been launching plenty of new videos recently, and they've done one specifically on their latest wheel loaders, and it looks like this. Yeah, fantastic video. Great soundtrack as well. Gary Muirhead says, is it not Develon that came out with a see-through bucket? Clever idea. It is, and they did. Yeah, you know, that was one of the big disappointments. And listen, and this is my ignorance, not his. I actually got to meet the guy that came up with that, the guy that invented that at ConExpo. But he's Korean, and his English was he really, really struggled. And we filmed him, and we filmed him, and we filmed him. And unfortunately, the resulting film was completely unusable. You couldn't understand a word. But a really, really smart guy. Wish we'd have been able to pull that one off. Maybe we'll try again at some point. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen says on the Mystery Machine, well done, Mr. Ford, and well done, says Gary Muirhead. Didn't know they had so many machines in the range. Yeah, little known fact. Gary also says, I bet you that was Dan's next answer. Yes, I'm sure it would have been. There's Dan himself. I'll see if I can get on the board. Just with lunch breaks changed, it's difficult. But he says, as Arnie says, I'll be back. What do we got here? A few guys I talked to wouldn't go back to Volvo loaders, and comfort second to none. We're still talking about Develon there. And there's Peter McKenna in his disguise as Crazy Edits. Good morning, all. Still in the throes of my chest infection. Hope everyone else is well. Well, certainly here, I'm giving off sparks, firing on all cylinders here, but get on the mend, would you? We need you back. Bad news here, which is no great surprise. Read this morning, says Mick, a number of economists are predicting full recession in 6 months and put the blame firmly on Reeves and Starmer. When I first saw that, firmly on Reeves, I thought it was going to read Reeves and Mortimer because, you know, Vic Reeves' big night out with Bob. Never mind. But yes, we are. The only thing with this recession, when it comes, how will we know? How will we know? It already feels like we're in one. And I realise there are, what is it, three quarters or 3 consecutive quarters of negative growth, and then that is officially a recession. That's what the official definition is, but it already feels like we're there. At least I believe so anyway. We're going underground in a moment with the fine folks at CAT. Back in a sec. Dan Cullen says, yes, heard that too, Mick. Jim Turner, international pan fighting from Cleethorpes. Not sure what that's relating to. And there's the chat has just gone slightly mental as far as I can see. Meow, I don't know why he's talking like a cat. Did you watch Gone Fishing Christmas special? It was brilliant. The real star of the show is Ted. I did, and you're right. Ted is unquestionably the star. I mean, I realise they voiced Ted. I'm not convinced he's a talking dog, honestly. But there is so much that dog's face conveys so much, like his general disappointment. Thank you, Jim. Yes, okay. Yes, it all makes sense. International pan fighting from Cleethorpes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm back on. Do you remember that on Shooting Stars, being hit with a frying pan? I don't know why that's funny, but yeah. Anyway, let's crack on. I promised you that we're going to go underground with Caterpillar, and we're about to do that. So let me fire that up for you right about now.
Hello, I'm Gordon Wilkin, Product Application Specialist from Caterpillar Underground Hard Rock Vehicles. Today, we're at the Proving Grounds in Burnie, Tasmania, Australia. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the AD60C truck. So the AD63 truck is powered by the C27 engine. The C27 is already certified to stage 5 and it does not require any after treatment or exhaust fluids to do so. The engine remains basically unchanged in the AD63 from the AD60 model. However, a lot of work has been done on the transmission. The gear ratios in the drop box have been changed, the torque converter is different to give us more speed on grade and holding of the higher gears. For the AD63, we've made further improvements to the service compartment. So as you can see behind me, there are all the filters in a centralised location as well as all the service intervals. So all the daily pre-start checks can be done from ground level from this location. The C27 engine is also fitted with the radial air filters. They're mounted at the front of the radiator now. This improvement allows us to get cooler air induction into the C27 engine, helping us to maintain horsepower. Further safety improvements on the AD63 is the access to the top levels. This is now done up the radiator by folding down these steps and folding up all the handrails as you progress along the top of the machine. The AD63 offers a 5% productivity improvement by being rated to 63 metric tonne. To cope with this extra payload, the transmission has had a lot of development. We offer the standard 7-speed transmission, but it has had changes to the gear ratios, it's had changes to the software. This allows us to maintain speed on grade and to reduce gear hunting. This has greatly improved the productivity of the AD63 truck. Together with that, the automatic retarder system has also been improved to allow us to maintain downhill speed on grade at any selectable speed that the mine site requires. The AD63 now also has a tiltable cab. This greatly improves the access to the C27 engine on the left-hand side. Also in this cab area are the brake accumulators and the suspension accumulators. So by being able to tilt the cab, it greatly improves serviceability on your mine site. To assist the AD63 with fuel burn reduction and greenhouse emissions and reduction in carbon footprint, we've designed the AD63 to have a battery-powered air conditioning system, commonly called a HVAC system. So the AD63 actually has 4 batteries, 2 for the diesel engine and 2 for the HVAC system. These batteries are mounted here beside the cab. The HVAC system above me is mounted behind the cab. The aim of this is that instead of having extended idle periods, you can turn the engine off and the HVAC system will continue to run, ensuring that the operator has full comfort at all times. This will not run down the batteries of your main engine. It can be simply restarted at any time. The AD63 is also equipped with a heavy-duty articulation and oscillation hitch. This ensures that all 4 wheels maintain positive ground pressure, maintaining full traction at all times, regardless of the angles. The AD63 is also fitted with the optional auto lube system. This ensures that all the pins and bushes are lubricated during the operation of the truck. The AD63 also comes equipped with a reversing camera and an optional payload system. The payload systems allows for the continuous monitoring of the payload during tramming or during loading operations. There's an external payload monitoring board which will display the payload to the loader operator. Inside the cab, there's the same display so the truck operator can also maintain weight, ensuring full productivity of every load. An integral part of the tray is the safety pins. This allows for safe maintenance whenever the body is raised. So thank you for your time today. It's been my absolute pleasure to introduce to you the AD63 truck. Please contact your local dealer for more information.
I'm with Dan Cullen on that. That's some explanation. He knows his stuff. He certainly does. Far more importantly than underground mining trucks, Gary Muirhead says, just finished off my last Christmas mince pie. Has anyone else still got their Christmas food left over from the big Christmas shop? I've got a twofold answer to that. The first is we still have a couple of boxes of mince pies kicking around the house, but apparently I've been tasked with, I was going to say disposing them, eating them, because my entire family has gone on a diet to start the new year and we've still got leftover food. And in addition to that, somebody within the demolition industry very kindly sent me a hamper, Christmas hamper. They'd ordered it to be filled with Christmas food, were told by the company that was sending it that they couldn't deliver. So they basically rehashed the order. So on the 7th of January, which I think was Tuesday this week, we had a hamper arrive filled with like Italian kind of food. So a bit of pasta in there, some Italian biscuits, but Italian meats and cheeses. So I've got that as well. I don't need to go shopping for a good couple of weeks now. Let's have a look. What do we got? Gary Muirhead reckons that looked like an old DJB cab. Yes, it did. And I did like the tilting. Whenever I think of a tilting cab, it's that way, not that way. Yeah, interesting. Mick says, I see Starmer has given out his orders to councils for the building of houses. Does he not realise that councils are on the breadline? There is no workforce to do his bidding. And talking of UFOs, I'm beginning to think he was left behind to screw the country up by a disgruntled outer planet. Would explain an awful lot, wouldn't it? What have we got? This is so much better than the company putting on flashy video clips and music, proper video footage, and proper information. In that case, I mean, it's short, but you might not like the Volvo video we've got coming up, but it is very short. Been a pleasure to watch. Good, thank you. There's been a lot of thought put into that truck, and not just a standard truck converted to suit. I totally agree. Get on to them aliens and book Starmer in for some anal probing. Are they taking bookings? It might help him to stop talking out of his ass so much. Interesting. Dan Cullen, hamper sounds nice. You know, it's a bizarre thing, right? I had a couple this year, and they arrive, and it says, "Oh, look, a hamper," and you open it up, and certainly the second one, it was filled with stuff that I would not go out and buy. Well, some of it I would, but most of what was in it, I wouldn't go out and buy, but I'm delighted to have it. You know, there's a tray in there of, you know, your prosciutto and your bresaola and all that. Oh, see, I went down to the local cafe yesterday for my lunch. Everybody else was out. I needed a bit of fresh air. They do a damn good fry up, so I went down to the cafe yesterday for my lunch. So last night wasn't feeling like I needed much of in the way of a meal. So I cracked open a pack of gorgonzola. I ate the bleeding lot. Yes, gorgonzola. Doesn't smell so great, but it tastes fantastic. We're heading down under in just a moment. Warmer climes. Back in a second.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
We're going to be talking at the end of the show about new versus old. Should we stick with the machines we've got, or should we invest in new? Jim Turner has very, very kindly commented and posted that on LinkedIn. I've just seen that come up on my screen. We'll get to that in just a moment, but there's not much more new than autonomous machines. A bit like this.
You always hear that phrase of AH as the future of mining. But this is mining now. We're in it. We're living it, and it is exciting.
The primary lever for us introducing autonomous haulage at South Bank is the safety benefits.
You're taking people out of harm's way. I mean, that has to be the number one.
When you see an autonomous truck move for the first time, knowing that we've taken that operator out of harm's way, it's very fulfilling.
We've already seen that productivity has lifted. We're able to drive the actual tons up. We're achieving a lot more than we expected.
I believe that BHP embracing the technology of autonomous haulage truly gives us a competitive edge in industry, where innovation in productivity, safety and cost is really the key to success.
We're moving dirt with robots. That's pretty cool, I reckon.
There's been over 70 positions created with autonomous haulage between mining, MEM, iPro and technology, with no job losses.
So we're here in the MEM workshop out at South Bank. We're converting 41 Komatsu trucks, they're 930E-5s.
So with the 41 trucks, it takes around 7 days.
Which is about a 5-day conversion, working with fitters, electricians, HV electricians.
We have around 2,600 parts that come in 14 different crates.
From there, it takes about 2 days in total to do the autonomy side of the commissioning. So that would be working on the calibration pad and turning it from manual to auto.
And then we've got around the 70 ancillary SME that are lined up to come through here.
I look after the installs on all our Ansell equipment. It's the EMV install kits that allow our machines to interact safely with the autonomous haulage trucks in the AOZ operating zone.
That basically puts some GPS antennas and some network radio hardware on board, and that's also for the truck to be able to see and know where it is from a position point of view.
There's over 160 pieces of equipment, very busy, but great team, great culture. As busy as we are, we always have a lot of fun as well.
We really have hit milestone after milestone at quite a rapid rate, and probably a bit earlier than we were expecting to.
Here at Mind Control, our job is highly technical. It's all about optimising productivity, but also keeping our people safe at the same time.
So I started at Southbank as a truckie. I always had the goal of becoming a mind controller. It was always something I wanted to do, so when I saw that it was advertised, I just went for it.
We have recruited a lot of good people from outside of the company and also inside of the company. It's really exciting to see all these new people wanting to learn, and it's great to see people come in and they just grow, and you see them start to relax and smile and just start to enjoy being in that role.
When we rolled out Newman East, that was the fastest autonomous rollout that any business had done. So having done that and having people from that rollout here, it gives me confidence that we'll do the same again. Make the plan, follow the plan, and that's it.
The team has been working in the background on our mine plans, our segregation of the mine. That will enable us to go fully autonomous at the site whilst keeping conventional and autonomous operations separated.
Autonomous haulage is really predictable. The trucks are really consistent. All EMVs, which is a equipped manual vehicle, have a safety envelope around their vehicle.
It's amazing how you can just drive around and there's trucks going past you with no drivers, and I actually feel a lot safer.
I spend a lot of time with the autonomy production supervisors as well as the field officers. We try to develop routines together to work out how to organise fleet management with the trucks, where they're going, when they're going to be refuelled.
The trucks really can run 24/7. They need daily inspection and fuel every 24 hours. But other than that, they shouldn't really stop. So you have the potential to just keep really the trucks rolling continuously.
We definitely expect to see some additional productivity gains versus our conventional sites once we complete the transition.
It's truly been a pleasure to be part of the project team. Being part of such a high-performing team that's managed to deliver in such a tight time frame has really been exciting, and it's rewarding and so satisfying just to see it all come together.
What an operation. Absolutely amazing. Our friend Mick says, still got some jars of pickles left over. The hound loves a crunchy gherkin, but by Christ, his arse goes into overdrive. You've only yourself to blame. If aliens did come to the UK, Keir Starmer would blame the Conservatives' black hole that they've left them. Yes, he probably would. And Peter McKenna makes an even better point. The aliens would want to be careful. Starmer will be taxing space travel next. Gary, on the subject of the video we were actually watching, look how clean and organised that workshop is. I guess when you've got that degree of permanence, you can invest, but man alive, just unbelievable. Mick says, anyone seen the video that the crane the Chinese mob have made? Is it XCMG? Bloody massive. I did see something from XCMG, but as soon as I saw it was a crane, lost interest. Peter McKenna, did you notice the British kite mark tattoo? I didn't. Was that on one of the people in Oz? Didn't see that. Chris Field says, I wonder if the automated dump truck still tips away from the blade. I don't know. But my guess is they've thought of everything else. Why the hell wouldn't it? Dan Cullen says, have a fantastic and safe first weekend, 2025, guys. See you on the flip side on Monday. Yes, you stay safe as well. Christmas branded cheese and biscuits are all rock bottom prices now. I'm a right cheese muncher, me. Yes, you and me both. You and me both. And Mick says, I think it was a Model 4000. I'll go and have a look at that. If it's a decent enough film, I may play it for you, even though it is a crane. And I'm not interested in cranes one bit. We have one more very, very short film to play you. It is quite cinematic. It is quite sexy. Stick around. Back after this.
Hi, I'm Holly. Join Mark Antley on The Breakfast Show. We are Ovenden.
Still wish they'd said breakfast show, but hey, it's kids, isn't it? Volvo, yes. We all know that Volvo have launched a bunch of new excavators. They've launched a bunch of videos to accompany those. They've got a new film, very short. It's only about 40 seconds, but it is quite nice to look at. looks like the trailer for a sci-fi movie. And I'm okay with that. Lou Carney going on about the guys, or the little boys at Oven. Oh, my goodness, too cute. Yes, bloody kids. Crazy Edits, Peter McKenna. Do you excuse me? I've got a bit of frog in the throat. Says, cheese and jam, cheese and ham, and cheese and Marmite. I was with you on the first two, can't be doing Marmite. Volvo do make a damn fine excavator. They make a damn fine excavator, they make a damn fine video as well. And Peter McKenna says, Christmas branded cheese and biscuits are all at rock bottom. No, I've done that one. Enough. That's the main part of the show over and done with. Sure, the main part of the show over and done with. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second. And then you can witness me leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, then do please stay safe. Have a good weekend. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. Monday would be ideal, and when hopefully the weather will be a little bit warmer. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after this thing, what I play about this time every day, like this. I'll warn you in advance, this one goes around the houses a little bit, which is why I've saved it for Friday when, well, basically I've got nowhere else to be. But as I say, it rambles a bit, but it does have a point. So if you can, do please stick with me. Many, many years ago, I was reading a Sunday Times supplement. There was an interview with the Sex Pistols drummer, Paul Cook. Now, I was a little too young when punk hit. I was 12 when the Pistols achieved notoriety with their song God Save the Queen. That said, the article was very good, but the best bit of it was the photo of Paul Cook himself. He was wearing a pair of jeans and a pair of tan-coloured brogues, and I fell in love with his shoes in an instant. So I went in search for a pair just like them, and I found precisely what I was looking for, a pair of brogues from Northampton-based Loke. Now, at the time, the most I'd ever spent on a pair of shoes was probably 30 or 40 quid. The Loke brogues were more than £100. But the heart wants what the heart wants. And so I swallowed deeply and I parted with the money, reassuring myself with my dad's old mantra, always buy a good pair of shoes and a good bed, because if you're not in one, you're in the other. In this and in so many other things, my dad was right. I bought those shoes more than 20 years ago. For many years, I wore them each and every day. I wore them with suits and with chinos and with jeans. I still wear them regularly to this very day. Now, admittedly, those shoes are a bit like Trigger's broom in Only Fools and Horses. On 2 separate occasions, I've sent them back to Northampton to be resold and rehealed. On each occasion, they've returned looking like a new pair of shoes. The artisans at Loke not only strip off and replace the underside, they add new insoles and new laces, and the uppers have been buffed to an as-new shine while retaining the patina of age. And here's my point. Those shoes cost me more than twice what I would normally spend, but they're already on their 3rd life. They look every bit as good today as they did the day I bought them, only now they're moulded to my feet, fully broken in. They fit like slippers. Now, excavators. And for excavators, read wheel loaders, dozers, graders, off-highway trucks. Notwithstanding the threat of tariffs that might make Chinese-made machines more expensive in the very near future, there remains a temptation to take the cheap option, to look purely at the upfront cost, to save money now and hope that it all turns out well in the long run. But for years, premium brands like Caterpillar, Komatsu, Liebherr and Volvo have extolled the virtues of looking beyond initial cost and to take into account the true lifetime cost of ownership, factoring in maintenance, repairs, fuel costs, likely operating hours and ultimately resale value. It's no coincidence that the brands that advocate for total ownership costs are the very same companies that offer the best repair and remanufacturing services. This debate between cheap and cheerful or expensive and long-lasting is nothing new, and the mathematics supporting that argument are proven. If a machine costs twice as much but lasts 3 times as long, you save 33%. However, there is now a factor that potentially shifts the balance even further in favour of more expensive but longer-lasting brands. And that factor is sustainability. Because now, and increasingly in the future, the environmental cost will be every bit as important as the financial one. And to support that contention, I shall call upon the expert opinion of Mr. Bean, or more specifically, the actor who plays him, Rowan Atkinson. As many of you know, Rowan Atkinson is a renowned petrol head. He was also an early adopter of electric vehicles. But in an article for The Guardian, he stated that he felt he'd been duped and that he would have done a greater good for the environment by simply hanging on to his trusty petrol car for just a wee bit longer. This is what Rowan Atkinson wrote. Currently, on average, we keep our new driven mainly by driven mainly by the ubiquitous 3-year leasing model. This seems an outrageously profligate use of the world's natural resources when you consider what great condition a 3-year-old car is in. When I was a child, any car that was 5 years old was a bucket of rust and halfway through the gate of the scrapyard. Not any longer. You could now make a car for just £15,000 that will, with loving tender care, last for 30 years. It's sobering to think that if the first owners of new cars just kept them for 5 years on average instead of the current 3, then car production and the CO2 emissions associated with it would be vastly reduced, yet we'll be enjoying the same mobility, just driving slightly older cars. That's Rowan Atkinson. Now, before you dismiss Rowan Atkinson's words as the ramblings of a comedian best known as Edmund Blackadder, it's worth remembering that he bagged his first degree in electrical and electronic engineering. He then earned a master's degree in control systems. In the field of construction equipment, a greater emphasis on true lifetime ownership costs and retention of older equipment will require not just one mindset shift, but 3. In the first instance, those buying equipment will need to look beyond the initial price tag to break out the profit calculator and to analyse and understand the true cost of owning and operating a piece of equipment. Secondly, and this one might prove more challenging, we need to dismiss the notion that new machines equate to success. We'll need to forego those photographs of company owners shaking hands with dealer salesmen on the delivery of one or more new machines. And we'll need to dispel the notion that modern equipment, laden with sensors and supported by state-of-the-art telematics, suddenly becomes less reliable the day the machine celebrates its 4th birthday. And then, of course, there is the problematic mind shift let me do this again. And then, of course, there is the most problematic mindset shift of them all. Governments around the world, including here in the UK, have set out ambitious plans to be carbon neutral by 2050. To achieve those lofty aims, they will eventually ban the sale of petrol and diesel cars and diesel equipment, while encouraging us all to embrace an electric or hydrogen-fueled future. They will do so presumably knowing that carbon saved here will simply mean the consumption of carbon produced elsewhere. And in their haste, they will send older yet ultimately cleaner equipment to the scrapyard. That's my thought for the day. I'm on the side of older equipment. That's all I'm saying. Mark's morning proto conversation. Yes, it is indeed. Only wear Joe Nifchini shoes, have the same outlook. Last pair cost me nearly £1,000, but Asher Dad said, yeah. I mean, £1,000 is, or thereabouts, is a lot of money for a pair of shoes. No question about it. But you know, it all comes down to doing the maths. And I'll say this. I mean, Caterpillar is a prime example of this. And Caterpillar is celebrating their 100th birthday later this year, just as a small aside. They've been offering remanufactured machines that they bring not just up to speed, but they bring them up to very latest spec. So, you know, if you've got a 10-year-old dozer, they will bring it up to sort of modern emission standards and everything else. But you're then getting a second life. You could potentially get a third life out of it. And, you know, if you really look after the machine, which, you know, if you spent that much on a dozer in the first place, you might even be able to sell it on. And Caterpillar machines have among the best resale values on the market. And maybe it could end up in another part of the world, still earning its keep for another 5-10 years after that. Compare and contrast that with machines that we are literally buying almost like the Primark of construction equipment. You know, you could go and spend 20 quid on a T-shirt, but why would you when you can get one for £3 in Primark? Well, the difference is the one in Primark ain't going to last you that long. It's not going to look particularly good after a few wears. It's not going to wash particularly well. Exactly the same thing. Well, obviously apart from the washing part of it. Jim Turner says the ever-changing goalpost set out by today's leaders means there's no point in buying a machine for a lifetime unless it's designed in a modular way. Then it can be modernised as and when needed. The issue, and listen, Jim, before I go any further, I agree with everything you say, and I have not nicknamed you a modular Jim Turner for no reason. I totally agree with that. My issue with all of this is there will be a cut-off point. And I've said this before, there won't be a day, we won't go to bed one night, smelling of diesel and then wake up the following morning smelling of hydrogen. It's going to be a gradual ramping it down of one and a ramping up of the other and everything else. But when we get to the point where, I think the first instance will be that there will be a ban on the sale of new petrol vehicles. When that same rule is applied to construction equipment, not petrol obviously, but diesel, when we finally decide that that's it, we're going, that's the last bit of production of the old school of equipment, what happens to all of those machines that are already out there? If you bought one, let's say this happens in the year 2050, I probably won't be doing this show by then. It's highly unlikely. But if you bought a machine in January 2050, diesel operated or diesel fueled, and it could potentially have a life for 20 years, and then they decide actually that's it, that's the cutoff point, there's to be no more of these. Are we saying that all of those machines that are out in the field, out in the market, will eventually just end up being cannibalized or sent off to a scrapyard? Profligate is the word. The big manufacturers and producers don't want things to last, otherwise they'll not sell a lot even after a few years, when everything lasts for years and years. Yeah, there is a built-in obsolescence, I think, with machines. And also, don't let's lose sight of the fact that the manufacturers and the dealers make a lot of money out of parts. Maybe that's the shift in their model. We start to build machines to last longer. We start to hang on to machines for longer, for the greater sustainability, but also for the economic benefits. But then in order for them to make their money, we may well see a hike in the price of parts. I don't know. Chris Ford says, 30 years ago, to maintain and repair a piece of agriculture, agricultural or heavy plant, all I need was a bag of spanners and a big hammer. Now, although all the basics are the same, the systems to control it aren't yet. And I wonder, being the cynic that I am, I wonder if that's been a deliberate. I don't wonder. I believe that has been a deliberate ploy on behalf of the manufacturers and more specifically the dealers. If we make machines, and for machines read vehicles as well, if we can make your average family car so complex to maintain, to the point where we actually seal the engine. There's not, apart from checking the oil and topping it up with water, there's not a great deal you can do without taking it to the dealer. Is that a ploy? My personal belief is yes, it is. My dad back in the 70s would tinker with his car and keep it running. Wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't be possible today because of the way that these engines are built, and even the diagnostics on them. Back in the day, it's making a rattling noise, and you'd run the engine until you located the rattle, whack it with something. If it stopped, great. If it didn't, well, maybe something worse was going on. Now everything is plug in a laptop, get the diagnostics out of that. Who has those diagnostics? The dealers, be it for cars or for equipment, both in construction and agriculture, quarrying, mining. The only people that have got that power are the dealers. And listen, I don't blame them for that. And ultimately, when you think about the hoops you have to jump through with warranties and what have you, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe if you can point to the track record of that machine, particularly in terms of resale value, if you can point to the track record of that machine, we've had it for 10 years, it's only ever been touched by dealer personnel. So if there's anything wrong with that machine now that is going to devalue it, it's the fault of the dealer. Maybe that's an upside, but at the same time, you'll have paid very, very handsomely for the privilege of that. The manufacturers would guarantee future sales by having a modular design, as people would stick to a brand and keep modernising as technology progressed. I wonder if equipment manufacturers are looking that far ahead. I do, and this is a genuine question. If there are any equipment manufacturers watching, and there often are, I'd love to hear your answer on that, because I know most recently when I went to see JCB, I was talking about the 370X, fantastic machine, very impressed with it. And I said to the guys, 370X, been waiting for it for a long time. When do you start work on the next one? Started. You know, we're already thinking about it. So, you know, we've launched a machine, but we're thinking, but are they thinking that far ahead? And what is the life cycle of maybe the 370X or the Cat 352 ME? 5 years probably before there's a Mark II or a second generation or a third generation, whatever it might be. Are they thinking 10 years in advance, when rather than having a diesel engine, it might well need a battery pack or a hydrogen fuel cell? Are they thinking that far ahead? Or are the manufacturers just looking at it as simple as diesel's going away, petrol and electric and hydrogen will come in at the same time? Are they looking at that, or are they looking at that transition, the modular transition, as Jim Turner is advocating for? I know a lot of old school plant fitters won't look at some of the modern equipment as they don't know what to do, or use a laptop to tend his job. I think there's part of that. But also, you know, I've said this before, you know, I think every big quarry, every mine, every decent plant hire, every demolition contractor has got that, you know, that bloke in the bloke in the workshop who always smells vaguely of lubricant, and I do mean vehicle lubricant and diesel, and you know, his hands haven't been cleaned since 1978, but he knows every single nut and bolt in a diesel engine. What is he going to do when he opens up the bonnet of a machine and is presented with a row of batteries? What's he going to do when he opens up the side panel of a machine and he's looking at a hydrogen fuel cell? Scratch his beard and throw in the towel, probably. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. We're obviously facing a period of transition, you know, regardless of new versus old, electric versus diesel, diesel versus hydrogen. There is no question we are at a point of transition. You know, the old way of doing things is going away. The new way of doing things, whatever shape that's going to take, is coming in. I do think that the governments around the world, in their eagerness to embrace all things sustainability, are trampling on some perfectly acceptable practices. I think that's one issue. I think they're also pushing agendas that don't necessarily need to be pushed, and so on down the line. But I also wonder, have they thought about things like who fixes these things? You know, if Keir Starmer or his successor, whoever it might be, actually wants to maintain that building program of 1.5 million new homes in 5 years, what if your electric or hydrogen fueled telehandler goes down in 10 years' time? Who's going to be there to fix it? What training will they have received? It's not good enough to just say he's got a bag of spanners, he knows his way around a diesel. How hard can an electric machine be? I'll tell you how hard it can be. It's alien. It's completely bloody different. There are no similarities. Too late, a manufacturer thinking about what's already released, that die has been cast. If they aren't at least one jump ahead, they are behind the customs from the start. Yeah. Gary Muirhead, this one's cut off. The basics of an excavator, i.e. the superstructure boom dipper, is built to, I'm going to guess he's going to say last, and it is. It is, you know, the top end of it will go on. So long as you haven't clouted the boom too many times and haven't mistreated the dipper and everything else, that will last. But then so should the engine. You know, if you look after and grease and oil a decent engine, you know, a Caterpillar engine or an Isuzu engine or something like that, that's going to last you 10, 15 years. Yeah, you might have to get it remanufactured and all that kind of thing, but it's going to last. Mick says, knew a fellow who was in the design department of Fords. He said, when a design is put down, it can take 8 years to develop, but in that time, there will be 4 other models that will be developed in those 8 years. So it's a continuous process. Absolutely right. Yes, so I'm going to read this Gary Muirhead's point in full. The basics of an excavator, i.e. the superstructure boom dipper, is built to last. That's why we get wear parts that can be replaced. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much, and I realise, you know, in the grand scheme of things of saving the planet and, you know, the radical change that all this is going to require. Obviously, this show is focused on a very specific part of the world and a part of that development. But I do wonder about that. I mean, even things like, you know, we've got Bauma coming up in 3 months, 4 months time. Bauma this year will be filled with people talking about electric machines and talking about, hydrogen future. There'll be a lot of technology and everything else. What will Bauma 25, 28, 31, 34, 37, 2040, 15 years hence? Now, again, I probably won't be here to report on it, so you have to make your own minds up. But Bauma 2040, assuming that there is still international travel and assuming that Bauma survives, which I'm sure it will, assuming all of those things, what will it look like? Will there be any diesel machines on display? Probably not, because most governments in the western part of the planet will be looking to do away with them either by then or not long after. Will it be all electric? Will it be partly electric, partly hydrogen? Will manufacturers be displaying old machines? Will they dedicate part of their Bauma presence to remanufactured machines? Will they be looking to demonstrate modularity? Here's a cat dozer, and you can have it. You've currently got it with a diesel, but you can go to battery electric, or you can go to hydrogen, or you can go to something else. Is that going to be the shape of Baumas to come? And if that's the case, well, going even further than that, I guess, if Bauma is that much changed, and for Bauma Replant Works, Hillhead, ConExpo, Intermat, all of these shows, if that is the case, do we actually go anymore, or do we watch them over the internet? Even within this tiny little bit of the market that we operate in, the change is absolutely profound. Mick says, gents, it's Friday, a double day. Oh, stay safe, don't freeze the nether regions off. Catch you next week. Yeah, enjoy a double. Plenty of chili vinegar, if you would be so kind. On mine, Mick, enjoy yourself, and give the hound a scratch behind his ear for me, would you? I think that's going to do us. That's an hour. Mick's already bailed out. I think Dan Cullen has left as well. Everybody, go and do your thing for the weekend. I want to be back here on Monday morning for more of the same. I bear and let me just go back to this. Haven't heard much coming out of the JCB hydrogen development. All seems to have gone quiet. Are they slowly moving away from it? No, far from it. I'm trying to remember which of the sons it is. There's a Lord Bamford and one of his sons. It's either Joe or George. Have basically formed a hydrogen company together, and I know one of his sons, I think it's George, I can't be sure, and if it's Joe, then please forgive me. The son is already active in the provision of hydrogen. He's into hydrogen buses and stuff. Obviously, JCB as a company over here are looking very much at hydrogen as a future, and the two, father and son, have formed a joint venture, and so no, they are completely behind the hydrogen thing. Yes, I saw that, Mick. Mans is in Deptford is closing. I've never been to that one. Mans is in Talbot Road in Bermondsey. Is my personal favourite, but I've never been to the one in Deptford. But they're sad day. That's a pie and mash shop for those for the uninitiated. Jim Turner says shows are needed. It's a chance to meet face to face. I agree with that, but again, if we've got to the point where, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but if we've got to the point where machines are so modular that you can basically design them yourself, I'll have that undercarriage with that cab setup, with that power unit, and so on down the line. What is the point of a show? You could do all of that online. What would be the point of going to a show apart from the face to face? And see the quality and test drive firsthand. Yeah, but again, even that's becoming I wouldn't say it's going out of fashion, but when you think about, go back to the last Bauma, which is nearly 3 years ago, there were a couple of machines there that were talking about their hydrogen capabilities. I know Hyundai had one that was static. Liebherr had one that basically went forward a bit and back a bit. That was about it. And I understand we're talking prototypes here, and I realise that development is still ongoing. But whereas, the SED of old, you go along, there's a new machine, give us the keys, I'll go and have a play with that, see what I think of it. That seems to be less the case. I mean, that's always been slightly less the case at Balmer anyway, but I do wonder. Gary Muirhead says, have a fantastic weekend, guys. See you all on Monday. Looking forward to it, Gary. Selling the shop fittings off, but not his recipe. Off to Tower Bridge now, mate. Oh, dear. Dear. Wish I was coming with you, Mick, because it is one of my favourite places on God's green earth. Anyway, people, go. Have a fantastic day, would you? Have a fantastic weekend. A return, if you would be so kind, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Monday morning. And we can do all of this again. I don't know what I'm going to be babbling on about by then, but I'm sure something will upset me over the weekend, and I'll share it with you. Because that's kind of what this show is all about. Until then, everybody, have a great weekend. See you soon. All the best.